Hello and welcome to episode 448 of the Crate and Crowbar, a gaming podcast being recorded on the 11th of June 2025. I'm Marsh Davis, and tonight I'm joined by a sizzling hot ball of hype hovering above the earth, scorching its fields and pastures with an enthusiasm for gaming stronger than any previously detected form of radiation. I speak, of course, of none other than Jamie Britton.
What's good, Internet? It's me, your boy, Jamie Britton. I'm in my conservatory in Surrey. Let's get some bits in the chat.
Wow, that was an appropriately hyped intro. This is our hype special episode, no less. I mean, like increasingly rare that we engage with the hype cycle these days, but boy, are we riding that hype cycle all the way to Gamesville today.
I can't even cope. I've got so much hype right now.
I'm determined to feel good, if not about myself or the industry or the world, then at least about maybe one game that would do it. Have you seen any of these one games, perhaps at an event called Summer Game Fest?
Yes, I have. And I saw some other ones at the associated events, but we'll not worry too much about those, but I might throw a couple in.
What was your hype level? Genuinely, before this, were you actually excited to watch this year's festivities?
There's so much of it. There's so much coming out. There's so much going on. I mean, I feel like, it's an embarrassment of riches in one way, because there is just it does seem to be like a complete hose pipe of games coming out. You'd never really know that the industry is in the state it's in at the moment, because it does seem like there are still a whole bunch of games being made. So that gave me a bit of hype, I would say, that like it's nice to see that they're able to kind of pack out an event like this and a bunch of associated events around it, and there is a whole heap of stuff, maybe nothing, utterly mind-breakingly astonishing, but like, a fair few things that look interesting and kind of next generation-y, and a lot of roguelikes in the associated events as well. Like,
oh boy,
we may have reached peak roguelike, but yeah, my hype level was moderate, moderate to good, I would say, becoming good.
I was pretty enthusiastic. At least I was willing to be made enthusiastic out of a desperate need for distraction. So I kind of found myself. There was like an aftermath piece, which was titled like something like "Are we still doing this?" Which is and it accurately assessed the grim state of the industry and the world at large. But I felt it was, I don't know, a little bit sort of whataboutism. Like, oh, you enjoying yourself? Are you still trying to wring a single drop of pleasure out of life? Are you? How fucking dare you? But then I watched Summer Game Fest, and they were right. We live in a fallen world, and there is no salvation. Only third-person boss rush action games that take place in a fallen world where there is no salvation.
Absolutely.
How did you feel about the amazing glut of Souls likes?
Yeah, it's a funny one, that, isn't it? Because ultimately, no one has made a really, really good one yet, aside from the games that From Software make. I mean, I think there are people who go to bat for a couple, like Lies of P. I know has its defenders, and I haven't played it, but I'm sure they're right. I think that's considered one of the most successful. And then there's also this Last Berserker game that came out quite recently, which is based on an anime. Yeah. And my friend Ollie, shout out to Ollie, he plays pretty much every Souls that come out, and he said it's maybe one of the best he's played. So there are still some good ones out there, but it does seem like it's such a hard thing to get right. I mean, like something like Elden Ring, that's the culmination of decades now of basically making and remaking the same game over and over again, and it ends up being rambling and weird in a way that is kind of completely engaging, and it's so unique, and I just think it's just so hard to capture that, and even when people go really balls to the wall with it, it does seem like it's a very, very elusive thing. It's kind of wonderful, really, that like they have this kind of secret spice that no one else can't quite manage, Yeah, but it does seem like something that gets a little bit exhausting after a certain point.
Yeah, exhausting is the right word for it. I don't think any of these games looked bad or anything, but there's just there was just so many of them during Summer Games Fest. It became almost just incoherent and incomprehensible to even say which one was which at a certain late stage of that presentation.
I remember a few years ago when we did a similar thing for a couple of Summer Games Fests back, and that year it was all Dead Space like games.
Right, yeah.
It was like space horror was the theme of that year for some reason, and there were like 5 separate kind of fucking space games. And it seems like now, yeah, we've reached peak Souls-like. So yeah, it's and then also like just again in the associate events, there's loads of roguelikes, and also Metroidvanias have like popped off once more. There are just like a near infinite number of those too. So it's weird how these things sort of come in waves, and then always sort of return, to the basic same standard stuff. It's peculiar.
Yeah, it has a strange homogenizing effect. Especially, what's so strange about it is it has a homogenizing effect, despite the entire sort of thing about Souls games having extremely, extra character design. Each boss in the Souls games is maximalist in a way which makes it stand out. But yeah, having like a presentation which was just wall to wall the most maximalist boss designs ever, it became really kind of. It felt like being stuck in an unending game of Mad Libs with Hideo Miyazaki. It's like, what if this guy's like Poseidon, right? But he's also Godzilla, but he's a zombie, and he has fists for eyes, and he has a clockwork golden mask on his belly that sings like Pavarotti. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. But then, which game does that come from? It's just, at a certain point, that kind of design breaks free of any kind of anchoring visual identity. And so by the end of it, I really struggled to remember what I had seen. There were 60 games or game-like things. So there was also like DLC announcements and stuff like that and other Fortnite bullshit. But I've written down ultimately 21 games that I actually remembered anything of. So I don't know how you feel about this. We could just punch through them really quickly.
Yep.
And see what you made of them.
Let's punch away.
Mortal Shell 2.
It's a Souls-like.
It's a Souls-like.
I enjoyed Mortal Shells 1. I think it's actually a little bit of an outlier because it's actually made by a bunch of people who are... Like, Mortal Shells 1 was interesting because it was a very compact Souls-like, made by a very small team of people. It was one of the first kind of... it's an indie game, handful of people making it, very small team, and they kind of made this very, very dense world, which I actually thought showed just a huge amount of talent and skill and ambition, and also a kind of obsession with Souls-like in a way that felt very charming. These aren't people fucking around; they're people really trying to make something, and so even though the trailer not necessarily set my soul on fire, I do think that out of all of the eternal Souls-like kind of games on show, this is one of the most interesting, purely because I just get good vibes from that team.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. They get a pass for being early on the Souls train, I think.
Absolutely.
How about Death Stranding 2, On the Beach?
Yeah. I mean, again, I kind of... There are 2 wolves that live inside me, and one of them is very, very glad that there is a crazy, excessive genius like Hideo Kojima, working in the industry, making these colossal art indie games, with just the most extraordinary... I cannot get my head around how good the mocap is and how good the graphical fidelity is. It's just absolutely godlike. So that's one wolf, and then the other one is just like, oh my god, it's just a kind of sense of exhaustion at the whole thing. I think that the first wolf wins, to be honest. But yes, it's just a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I find it hard to know what to make of his games at the best of times, let alone his. I mean, why for that game choose the snippet to show of 2 people talking in an office? I mean, I'm sure that's not totally representative of the game at large, but whatever. He almost has like a hype level which surpasses any need for marketing anyway. So it's sort of irrelevant what he shows at these sort of events.
Yeah, I'm very glad he exists. I don't know if I'll play it.
Chronicles Medieval, which had a medieval Tom Hardy gutturally recounting his life story to a largely CG trailer that probably doesn't show anything of what the actual game would be like to play. Do you recall this one?
I do. Just, missing footage here. It's just kind of, that's all I got.
What I want, I mean, rather than Tom Hardy, I don't mind if he's voiced by Tom Hardy, but I prefer if he was voiced by Tom Hardy, but Tom Hardy was only allowed to communicate via a trumpet. I really want like a Total Warfare style game where you're in the midst of battle as the commander on the field, but you obviously, as the commander on the field, can only issue commands to your forces via a trumpet.
It's a genuinely good idea for a game. I
don't think they're making that, but they should.
I want to see the proper Resident Evil 4 GameCube controller chainsaw style accessory for that, where you get a fucking medieval bugle that you have to properly manipulate to send out a cavalry charge. So I would play it.
How about End of Abyss? Do you remember that one? It was like a...
Oh yeah, End of the Abyss. Yes, End of the Abyss. I thought this looked great. It had good monsters in it.
Yeah, I struggled to remember anything about this one now, even despite having whittled this list down to the ones that I ostensibly
it was like alien colours, so you got some blues, some blue lasery things.
It was the blue game, yeah.
The blue game, yeah. And you're walking around. It's like in a kind of faintly isometric third-person perspective. I mean, they show gameplay, which just makes it so much more amenable to watch, right? And then you're a spaceman, and then there's horrible gribblies. Like at one point in the trailer, he shoots one, and it splits into two and tears his face off. I mean, we're in sort of space horror stuff here, but yeah, looks all right.
How about Mouse, PI for Hire? That was like a 1920s, 1930s style animation first-person shooter, but all the enemies were cut-out sprites.
Yeah, I thought it looked great.
Game of Thrones, War for Westeros. They did a nice little bait and switch there by having a very fancy-looking trailer, then in very small text at the end, revealing it was actually an RTS. So won't look anything like that.
Yeah, could be good. Could be fun.
Could be good.
Could be good.
There's a lot of Mundfish games at Summer Game Fest. I didn't realise they had quite that clout.
Yeah, since when was Mundfish such a huge thing?
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, Atomic Heart was the game that brought them to prominence. I don't know if they had other stuff before then, which was, not very good, but had very kind of outre enemy design that riffed on like Soviet futurism. Yeah. And this seems to have sort of breached containment of that aesthetic and gone full non sequitur. So there's just the trailer was just ceaseless gibberish basically of these kind of wacky visuals, lots of shots of women in tight fitting clothes focusing on their sashaying arses. I didn't quite know how it all fitted together, but it seems to have wall running and zip lines.
Yeah, zip lines,
grappling hooks.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then they announced The Cube as well, which seems to be set in the same Atomic Heartiverse, if there was such a thing, but is now a multiplayer game, something on a giant rotating cube. Perplexing stuff, I thought.
Yeah, I'm still cross with them for the horny shop machine in the first game. The one that's like, ooh, stick your coins in me. It's just fucking one of the worst things that's ever been in a game.
I don't remember that at all.
It's just awful. So yeah, once I've gotten over the shock of that, I will maybe check these ones out.
Well, a lot of the games tended towards a darker, grimmer aesthetic. I think.
I wonder what's happening in the world that could possibly lead people to be making all of these violent hellscapes.
Well, it was noticeable that the games that were most memorable to me were the ostensibly like kid coded games like Felt Bat Boxing, which is boxing like Punch Up but with Muppets, and just the fact that the engines now can really render felt extremely well.
Yeah, that game looks great. I mean, what the hell? I genuinely thought that looked like something really special. completely mad. Great elevator pitch idea. Yeah, felt that. It's a very funny title, which they clearly came up with first. And like, yeah, I just, that was one of the ones that I most enjoyed in this thing.
And it was Out of Words as well, which is another felt aesthetic game. It looked like everybody was created out of plushy toys.
Yes, that's right. That's always good. You get a new texture into game. I think you can get some different textures. People are going to sit up.
Is felt the new rim lighting?
Yeah, I guess it is. It's like that weird like thing where like, the retro games. Retro culture is always looking back. What's like 20 years or whatever it is. So that's why we're getting all the kind of, sort of slightly double A 90s, early noughties vibes now. But like all those weird like Nintendo games like Kirby's Great Yarn or whatever. Like Nintendo had that era where they made a bunch of games with different textures in them. Paper Mario.
Oh yeah,
that kind of stuff, which is like I get actually because like everyone bought Little Big Planet because it looked like felt. It just seems to be a sort of another one of the weird oscillations of the game industry. It's like, felt's coming back in a big way, guys. I promise you. So yeah, it's good to see, I guess. Welcome back, Felt.
Yeah,
you've been missed.
I'm still waiting for the great revolution in Découpage. That's what I'm holding out for as an aesthetic. How about Mafia: The Old Country?
Yeah, I think this looks cool.
I mean, one of the things that struck me about this deluge of trailers was that I found all of the trailers quite incoherent. I think this might actually be like a new style of cutting a trailer for audiences that are definitely not me, because none of them attempted to present like a coherent story or really tell you what the game was about or the characters you're playing. And in Mafia particularly, I would have thought that was important because it's going to be a game which is 99% story, probably, or at least there's going to be a ton of cutscenes in it in between the dissonant gunning down of lemon merchants in Sicily. But this one, like, I mean, I got the idea by the end of the trailer, but like for a large part of it, I was struggling to tell who the protagonist was meant to be out of this kind of extremely rapid cut selection of extremely nicely mo-capped faces of swarthy Sicilian men. Like, I didn't know who was who. I didn't know who was, what was it trying to say? What were these characters doing? I could tell that they were all doing mafia-style violence to people. But, like, well, I mean, what it tells me is there's not really much of an effort to tell an interesting story with that. That's what I got from it. I'm not sure that's intended.
I think it's also, like, in the hose pipe of trailers that comes out at an event like this, it's quite hard to stand out. And I imagine people have all sorts of, like, what if we didn't actually tell you what the story of the game is? That would really make people sit up and listen. I think there's probably an element to that where people are trying to find a kind of unusual, take on something. But obviously, anything that isn't just basically telling you the first third of the plot of the, story followed by some Hans Zimmer boahs and you're going to get lost in the mire. So you might as well just show a series of near identical looking Sicilian men talking about lemons. Yeah.
Well, it's strange though. It's like everybody made the same choice though, and by dint of that, ended up looking less identifiable. I think if there was a trailer which really, well, I say that I was going to say if there was a trailer that really took its time to establish the setting, but then Resident Evil Requiem, half the trailer was just a guy walking through the office to one of his co-workers. So. Like, I don't know what people were thinking this year. It seems like all over the fucking shop.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It does seem like this will really fuck with their heads. Like, I guess because they want to give you that like drop moment of like, oh shit, it's Resident Evil. But getting there is a peculiar experience. Like, okay, so we're in an office. Here's a guy. He's walking through an office. He's looking at some people. Okay, here's a woman. She's gonna. And then like, what's so funny about it as well is they have like a conversation where they're faintly talking past each other, and then they get into the trailer and everyone goes like, "Oh, right, we're in Raccoon City." But so that first bit didn't really,
yeah,
it's not really relevant to anything, That said, I am very excited about Resident Evil 9, which we're skipping to the end now, right? Because that was the final one. It's all right. I think we can break chronology. I've been replaying Resident Evil 4. And Resident Evil 4 Remake. They're just like the games I default to when I like don't know what to do with my hands. And I think Resident Evil 4 Remake might have the best shooting in any game ever.
Oh.
It's just so good, and it's so satisfying, and it feels so nice. And all the little fiddly bits that Leon does when he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to get my gun out," and sort of, "Ooh, we're going to move it around a bit. Ooh, I'm moving it over there. Or I'm taking this off here." All the business, I would guess you would call it, around guns is also just really, really fun. And so, for that reason, I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 9.
Yeah,
That follows,
it sounds
right?
like a cool pitch. I mean, it sounds like they're doing more of the Alien Isolation style monster in a single location horror.
Which more or less means I probably won't play it because I find that sort of thing incredibly stressful.
yeah. I absolutely won't play it. Not in 100 years, but good for them though.
I find it so hard whenever a game is like, yeah, we're going to set this horrible beast loose in this location with you, and you're going to have to do a series of tasks while it stalks you. I'm like, that sounds like a lot of stress. I wouldn't enjoy that.
I will play Lego Voyagers, however, which looks delightful. You play little bits of Lego and you plop around and you affix yourself to other bits of Lego and then continue to plop around in order to solve puzzles. It looks great.
Yep, I heard that Builder's Journey game, which is the same team, I think. I heard that was really good. I think Lego generally, like even outside of the sort of, Lego Star Wars, Lego Horizon Zero Dawn type things, I think they generally do make really good games. I can't remember the name of their Forza Horizon-like driving game, open world driving game, but it's really good. It's just like a really fun, really well-crafted experience that like would be a solid Forza Horizon game, if it was released under that banner. It's like, and so I think it's great that they still are able to put out slightly unusual games under that banner. And yeah, I have no idea who these people are who make all these excellent Lego games, but there's loads of them and they're doing very well.
Well, all of the Lego games have really, talking about, the felt being an aesthetic that the industry has apparently seized on. Like, I think they were there first with getting like a really beautiful sense of plasticity to their, well, not really plasticity, but plasticness to their rendering.
Yes.
Looks gorgeous. Deadpool VR.
Yeah. It's like, I know there is so much great work going on in VR. It's for most muggles, it's inaccessible still, and it just feels like a remote prospect. And I think, I don't know, what I think is that I feel like a lot of good work gets missed. So like that new game from the people who make The Room, I can't remember the title off the top of my head. That looks fantastic. Really brilliant. And clearly like that team working at the absolute height of their powers on something that they really, really invested in. And I just know I probably won't play it because time will pass and it will fade into memory. And I hope we can find a way to kind of make that stuff a bit more accessible, because at the moment it's just prohibitively expensive to pay the cost of a console, for that experience, I think.
Yeah, I just don't want that strapped to my face, to be honest. And even if it wasn't strapped to my face, I wouldn't play this game because it looks dreck. But how about Dying Light: The Beast? You a fan of the Dying Light series?
Do you know what? I had no idea what it was. I got very much confused with the difference between Dying Light, Dead Rising, and Dead Island, which are games where you're doing the same thing, and The State of Fear, which doesn't have a dying thing in the title, but is also the same thing. These are all like zombie kill games. But I played Dead Island 2 recently, and I loved it. And then I thought, I'm going to play Dying Light 2. And that game, right, is like incredible. That game's
got some good parkour in it.
It's got fucking amazing parkour in it. I had no idea where this fucking thing came from. It's enormous. It's got this colossal open world city in it, which is rendered spectacularly well. It's got all of these mad systems, like where you're like the combat system is basically entirely based around like doing like weird Jackie Chan barrel rolls over enemies' heads and then kicking them in the nuts, right? And then you sort of level yourself up, and then you've got this fucking day-night system. This is all just entirely new to me. I understand like true gamers already got this, but this game came out a few years ago. I played it because it was free on my PlayStation. I was just really taken aback with how enormous and complicated and beautiful it was, and like the experience of being chased through the night by a zombie horde and parkouring over buildings and stuff like that, just really, really, really good. And yeah, I mean, I immediately stopped playing it because, my God, who has time for a game like that? It's just like, it's one of those games that it's like, you play for the first 5 hours and you realize, oh, this game wants everything of me I have. Like, this is like a full-time job of a game,
Yeah.
But this DLC, I think, is really interesting, actually. I mean, I know it's returning to the character from the first game, which who the fuck knows who that is, but I do think this team is, the people behind this game are just clearly like possessed of something or other. It's just a real fervor they have for their world, which is, naff in its own ways and a little bit kind of, default game kind of stuff. But still, there's something very interesting there. They clearly have ideas, and I think those ideas are unusual and worth a look.
Yeah, there's an awful lot in those games. Like, they are full to the brim with systems and ideas and stuff, and I find them a little overwhelming. Like you say, I feel like I recognize them as really sophisticated examples of the thing that they are, but I don't have time for them. I think I just I feel a little intimidated by the idea of managing all of the kind of resources and the day and night cycle on top of all the actual kind of action and parkour stuff. But this does look great. It's moved to Europe, this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think somewhere. I can't remember exactly where. So it's got lots of medieval era buildings in the old town city centre to vault across. Lots of tiles.
You love to see it.
Love to see some tiles. How about mixtape? I think, Jamie, I would be happy to never ever see or play another coming of age story again in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, and I'm the guy who wrote Skins. Yeah, coming of age, it's like, it is a very hard thing to do well. It's a very hard thing to do well in video games, and yeah, this one left me. I was really excited for this studio's last game, The Artful Escape, but it kind of, again, for all the kind of artistry on show, it did seem to sort of default to a kind of a cliche version of kind of these things, which is just a little bit hard to feel enthusiastic about.
Yeah, I think I saw a post somewhere saying that all the questions I had about this demo were answered by the fact that the development team are Australian, and maybe there's something particularly difficult about recreating a specifically American sense of winsome nostalgia if you weren't there. I'm sure it's fine. I just Christ, I just don't give a shit. I just don't care. I don't care about teenagers. Grow up.
Yeah, it is hard, and like having it's the line that like Life is Strange, which I think is mostly made by French people. Like, people come down on one or another side of those games, right, where they actually feel like they're really heartfelt and truthful, or they feel like, yeah, these are kind of received version, like a media defined version of this stuff. And it's nothing's that simple anyway. But yeah, I do think it's that kind of particular YAE vibe. YAE is not one I tend to be particularly amenable to. Yeah.
Acts of Blood.
Yes.
Which is like a furious, fast-paced brawler.
Yep.
With martial arts and shit kicking off.
Games where you walk around the city poning people in the head with your fists. I'm pretty much always going to show up for one of those. I thought this looks great.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say about it. It seems a fairly simple pitch. But Mind's Eye.
This is the Builder Rocket Boy, their new game, which is like out now, right? It's actually come out.
Yeah, I believe it came out yesterday or today,
and is a bit of a buggy experience so far, is what I've heard.
Yeah, a confusing proposition, I think, from the trailers that they showed. Not quite certain of how to pitch itself,
because this is like a strand of their like the sort of everything game they're making, right? They're making some kind of world creation tool type thing, and so this is like one bit of that, which is just like, it's unusual that's kind of their pitch on this stuff. They're making this one colossal game and doing this one as a sort of adjunct to that. But yes, I think it's it's slightly dipped under the radar, I think, because it's clearly had a lot of money and all that sort of stuff behind it. So yeah, it does seem to have been slightly a victim of perhaps some of that information overload of one of these things.
Yeah, there's sort of been a bit of a cloud around it. I don't know whether that's deserved or not, or just, sometimes the video game industry likes to bully a developer. But certainly the kind of, if you were an augur, the omens are not good for it, with various executives leaving. And an executive did also accuse Rockstar of running some sort of psyop against them in order to destroy its reputation, which seems slightly unlikely to me. But
pretty unlikely if you're the biggest video game company in the world with thousands of employees on the brink of releasing your magnum opus. And you're like, you know what we should do? Let's take down one of our former associates at his new studio.
Next up is Ill, all caps ILL. It's a first-person game in which you realistically dismember mutant babies. It looked sick and depressing. Not altogether uncompelling in that sense, but...
Yeah. I was a fan of this one. Thought it looked pretty compelling, actually. Horrible.
It's definitely if you took the full spectrum of games that were shown at this festival, then it's definitely the vibe slider being pushed to one particular extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh god, it's so funny, isn't it? Like this is absolutely one of the vibes of video games. It's like harrowing nightmare. Realistically, painstakingly rendered guts of horrible Gribblies exploding at your will.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Splitgate 2, a man with an ill-advised hat.
Yeah. Talks
about a game which looks fine.
Yeah, I mean, I know Chris Thurston has good things to say about the Splitgate games, which by no means is a should be considered an endorsement of any hat, I would say. And I've played a fair bit of those games. They're good. They're fun. They're like hark back to the the Unreal tournaments type thing, and most of the games that try and do that die. So it's nice that Splitgate is still a thing. But yeah, poor hat choices. And that's just a live game that's already out. So it's like, if anything, negative publicity.
Well, that's all. Those are all the games that I recalled from Summer Game Fest. There were many more, but who knows what they were? Nobody can tell you, that's for sure.
Can I mention a few that came up in the associated other things that were going on, like the Xbox thing and the PlayStation thing and the Day of the Devs things? I've got a list here. So, Bloodstained, the Scarlet Engagement. So this is the sequel to a game which title I'm not going to be able to get. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, maybe that's what it's called. The Igavania by Iga himself. I loved the first game. It's ridiculous. It's completely over the top. It's very excessive and kind of bonkers, and it's really nice how they've supported it in the years since. There's always like adding modes to it. It was like a early Kickstarter, which actually kind of made good on a bunch of its kind of stretch goals and stuff like that. So it's really fun. It's one of those games where you can boot it up and, several years later and they've added a new, randomizer mode or whatever. But this just looks great. Like a really camp, over the top, horny, full-throated Metroidvania by the inventor of the genre. Super excited for that one. Lumin, I never know how to say this game's name. Luminous.
I always pronounced it Lumines, but that's almost definitely wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, Lumines Arise, which is the Tetris effect, essentially, of Luminous. I love the original game. It's, aside from Tetris, it is the best game, I think, where blocks fall on you. Has a lovely soundtrack, and they're clearly going for exactly the same vibes as they did with Tetris Effect, which is obviously one of the very best games of all time. So this will be awesome, I think. I know we were both a bit cool on their last game, that one with all the Uniqlo people being sent to heaven by that dog.
Oh yeah. Was that called Humankind or something like that?
I think it was probably
Humanity. I don't know.
Yes, there is a game. There are games with both of those names, and it was one of those. Silent Hill F. So Silent Hill F is a game I'm really excited about. because it is by the writing team who do the Umineko When They Cry games, which I periodically talk about on this podcast, as I spend several years moving like percentage points through the plot of that game. It's like an 80-hour visual novel, but the quality of it shines through in terms of the writing. And this is like a sort of thing that wouldn't normally interest me, like a Japanese schoolgirl thing set in Silent Worlds type vibes. But by virtue of who's writing it, I'm just very excited about it, basically, because it will be weird and in a good way. Oh yeah, Militsiona. This is the game where you're trying to escape from a Russian town which has a towering, enormous Russian like policeman dude always watching you. So there was a
made by Tall Boys, I believe, which is a good name for a developer.
Yeah, it really is. I just think this is one of the best ideas for a game anyone's ever had. Right? I just think it's an incredible idea, and they've been showing this trailer. Like I remember seeing the first trailer for it years ago, which was like almost looked like it was rendered in the Source engine or something. It looked kind of. Even then, it looks spectacular. And now, like, they're showing trailers of it which have the hand of the policeman sort of reaching down and pulling buildings apart, and like the fact that it's a immersive sim with a giant policeman watching you. I really hope it lives up to the promise of the premise, because my word, what an idea! If those crazy fools can pull it off, I think it will be really something.
Oh, good. I missed that there was a new trailer for that. I will watch
just a short one, I think, in probably maybe the Future Gaming Show or the Day of the Devs. And there's another one which I'm just looking up because I wrote it down. It's called Sleep Awake. No Google, not Sleep Token. That's the metal band currently taking over the charts. So Sleep Awake is from the creative director of Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and also one of the Nine Inch Nails. Not the main one. But one of them.
I thought there was only one 9 Inch Nail.
Yeah,
I thought it was just Trent Reznor.
Yeah, it's another guy as well.
Okay.
It's the guitarist from the Nine Inch Nails called Robin Fink. And it's like a weird horror FMV crossover sort of thing. It's very, very striking visually. It's got video elements and also like crazy sci-fi Lovecraftian landscape elements as well. Just the visual styling on it and the music in the trailer as well. Just really, really immediately grabs you and kind of clearly something completely different. So yeah, that looks awesome. That's like a genuinely brilliant trailer as well. To look that one up.
Awesome.
And the last trailer I'll talk about is Mugenics. So there was also trailers knocking around for Super Meat Boy 3D. Like the other guy who isn't Edmund McMillan has continued to make Super Meat Boy games. He made Super Meat Boy Forever a couple of years ago, and now he's doing like the 3D one. Edmund McMillan is, a really brilliant game designer aside from anything else. And his last game, The Legend of Bumbo, was like really interesting take on the sort of match 3 genre that not enough people played. And then he's been like dipping back into Binding of Isaac in recent years, and the last update for that was completely spectacular. But he's also been making this game Mugenics, which he debuted one trailer a couple of months ago, which is really, really horrible trailer. Really skillfully done, but like basically telling the story of this couple who couldn't have a child like by normal means, so they got a couple of cats and tried to sort of breed them into an eventual human baby that they could raise as a child. Like really upsetting shit. And I don't even know really what the gameplay of this game is, but it's clearly like he, as a creator, he's someone who doesn't rest on his laurels too much, even though he has been making and remaking Binding of Isaac for decades now. But still, in the sort of other games he releases, he really goes for broke on trying something different. And I think Mugenics, which he's been talking about for years, but now has a release date. Yeah, it's some weird run-based thing where you're breeding cats to have specific powers and God knows what really. But yeah, just super interesting. And he's such like a unique voice that very excited about that.
That's cool.
And that is all the trailers.
What a fine spread of games to look forward to. Although we've also been playing a lot of games in the Steam Next Fest, so we actually have informed takes on those rather than wild speculation and sneering, which is our normal mode of assessment. Which of those games would you like to start with first, Jamie?
Shall we start with the cream of the crop? Shall we start with Ball X Pit?
Bollocks Pit, yes. It is great to breakout inspired roguelike with sort of a dash of Vampire Survivors sort of auto shooter stuff.
Yep.
You blast balls into an oncoming horde of beasts, and you earn new buffs, and you strategically stack those buffs to more efficiently clear the rows and columns that are marching towards you, which sounds not terribly exciting, but somehow, because the pace of it is so rapid, you're earning upgrades all the time.
Yeah,
it's almost overwhelming, but it feels great. I could see this easily eating hours and hours of time.
Oh my goodness. What an amazing first impression it makes when you boot it up. I knew there was going to be some sort of breakout element to it, and like you start off, it's kind of derpy in a weird way, like your character model sort of sits at the bottom of the screen and you've got these advancing skeleton blocks, coming towards you on a grid, and then you're firing out these little balls which sort of start off looking quite wimpy. And then what's so clever about it is that you immediately know what to do, because you've played Breakout, essentially that you need to get the balls to go behind people and sort of ping pong around in that glorious way. And so you immediately get into the sort of swing of things, because this line is advancing. As soon as it gets to you, it's going to, you die very quickly once the skelly boys reach you. So you need to kind of move fast, even though you can slow it down, which is quite nice. You can make the game much slower or faster depending on sort of what the vibes are. And yeah, as you say, it's you shoulder buttons on the controller can slow it down, which is quite good. And then like you say, the Vampire Survivor vibes are very strong with this, because you are leveling up constantly, and it's all about kind of making yourself more and more ridiculous as you go. And I don't know why it is so fucking badass when the level widens out when the boss arrives, but for some reason it's just absolutely baller. It's just fantastic, and it means that you're able to sort of shoot your shots around the baddies a bit easier and do the sort of ping-ponging stuff, but it just feels like this amazing sense of the possibility space of the game opening up, even though that's quite literally what's happening. It's just really, really supremely confident game making and just instant fun. And again, Peggle and Breakout are two fundamental gaming forms, just like Felt. And it's we were talking a while back about the there's been a few Peggle based roguelike games, Peglin one of them, but there's been others, at least 3 that I can think of. But it's just so satisfying to see a game come out of the gate like this with immediately grabby gameplay, just one of those things that just itches your brain in exactly the right way. Fantastic music. The fact that your base is also Breakout, because you go back to your base and you build your crops and you build your houses, and then you fire your men at them and they bounce around collecting crops and hammering scaffolding into buildings. It's just, yes, mate, amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Imagine if they felted the bookworm from Peggle. That'd be a surefire hit. Découpage that worm. That's what you want to see.
Découpage that worm. It also made me laugh out loud, where it has a title screen, which is a take on that famous picture of the Tower of Babel, which might be by Bosch or something. And then when you press start, a horrible Lovecraftian meteorite or whatever comes down and destroys it, and then it gives you the words, was it? Bulbul has fallen? That made me laugh out loud. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Morsels next?
Yeah. I speaking of The Binding of Isaac, that's probably the game this has most in common with. What a weird one. What a genuinely strange experience.
Feels like a successor to Nuclear Throne, I thought, like a pixel art, top-down, bullet hole roguelike, with sort of shades of... do you remember the film Street Trash?
Yes, absolutely.
But it's like that. But if the world of Street Trash had been turned upside down by the arrival of magical playing cards that create a super class of card-wielding mega bastards... and everybody else is just forced to fight over the scraps of the trash deck. Yeah. Anyway, you play a mouse, obviously, and you walk and you fight walking bum creatures.
Yeah.
I really like it. I really like this.
You have an insatiable appetite for cheese.
Yeah. Yeah. You sell the cheese intermittently to foxes and unidentified animals that emerge from trash cans. I sense I'll never be good at it, or good enough at it to get very far. I couldn't really understand what all the pickups do or how to activate them, but maybe that's part of the fun of it. I think is just the experimentation on subsequent runs. Although some of the buttons didn't seem to do what they said they did on screen, like the D-pad prompts didn't seem to initiate any response. So maybe there's some other things going on with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it looks cool.
It was hard to get into the rhythm of, like, it's got like a reload thing going on, and it's probably a little bit too obscure. Plus, you're so puny. It's just like it's like a weird kind of power fantasy. Again, some like Binding of Isaac vibes there, where you start off kind of blinking out tears at a very slow rate, and you can eventually become a kind of cyber hell god. But it's like, in terms of its design and music and everything like that, it's really, really impressive. It's one of those worlds where everything is wrong. Like, nothing feels good. Nothing feels natural. Everything feels just, wrong. Like the fact that the kind of unholy ladders that you climb out of the levels, which kind of reach into the sky, and then you emerge onto a street out of a which is like, I think games have been doing for, decades really, but like, just to kind of literalize that of you like climbing through this impossible like space on this ladder as this weird mouse.
Yeah.
It was a really good idea. Like, clearly just very, very, there's like a proper weirdo who knows exactly what he's doing with this world, which is a nice ride to
I love it. I really like the sort of mutant vagabond guy who's playing his little horn as you climb the first ladder.
Yep.
Presumably played by Tom Hardy. It's very good. Dispatch.
The new game from Telltale, but not really. Another company who aren't Telltale, but are made up of a bunch of the leadership of them.
Ad Hoc, I believe their name is.
Ad Hoc, that's right. What did you think of this one, Marsh?
I liked it. So you play a former superhero who's fallen on hard times, is now forced to run dispatch, like directing other superheroes, although it's questionable whether they are really heroes, to various disasters, and then you're trying to match up their skill sets to that, to those challenges. So you have a charismatic mod golem. So you put him in charge of running security on stage because he's got a high kind of defense value and a high charisma, and then you fit a speedy demonic lady who catches a wayward youth and then gets to scare him straight because she's a terrifying demon. And interspersing all that management stuff, which is quite a breezy little game, is the sort of more familiar Telltale style dialogue trees, which you navigate your relations with coworkers. I assume at some point that builds to a larger story in which your own superheroism is addressed in some way. I thought the script had some really good gags. I thought it was maybe a little try hard with the swearing, but I did like it. I wasn't so sure about the skill set matching stuff though, which is a large part of the game. Like, I wasn't quite sure what the skill was for drive a boat safely. Is that vigor?
Yeah.
Is that intellect? I really have no idea. But it was also quite fun to fail, so it didn't really matter that much. If that stuff becomes more critical to the outcome of the game and it doesn't become less opaque, I think it could be frustrating. There's also a really bad hacking minigame in there, which doesn't make any sense. I didn't love that.
Yeah.
But what did you feel about it?
Same on the hacking minigame, and same on the points about gameplay, I think. I was just very, very impressed with the quality of the cinematics, basically, and the engine by which you're driving the story. Like, I've played almost no Telltale games, I think, because I always found them really, like, in terms of their UI and in terms of their design flow, I always found them pretty hostile and pretty jank. So, like, clearly that's something they've really work to sort of solve for on this, because basically your character will be chatting away, and there'll be a decision coming up in the scene, and you decide what you want to do, and then it seamlessly rolls into that moment, which, like, again, feels obvious to say, that's how they've done it. Like, it's one of those things where, like, that's almost never done in a video game, because it's just so hard to do, to have scenes with branching narrative choices be able to flow into each other at the level of animation quality and performance that they're doing. With the level of polish on this game is just astounding, and it counts for a lot, I think. And I think the script is also it shines through, I think, how good it is. It really stood out to me, because it's the sort of thing, and the humor they're going for is normally the sort of thing that kind of puts me off. It's a little bit cutesy, a little bit cheeky. It's got some of those YA vibes, or proximate to those, that tend to be a bit of a turn off. But it's all done with so much just subtlety and brilliance across the board, that I think this is a really, really exciting prospect, particularly if that side of the game and the management side of the game can speak to each other in a meaningful way. I think they might have something really special on their hands. And I actually think this is like something like what the Don't Nod games, the Life is Strange games, it's something that they're sort of... It could turn out to be the game that they're kind of perpetually trying to make, and maybe not quite ever knocking it out of the park, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's, really intriguing. It remains how that sustains throughout an entire game. But they got really top tier acting talent. Aaron Paul is the lead character, and some good voices all round.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a good sign, though. I feel like Telltale often went for big name actors, and I don't always know that was budget well spent.
Yeah, that is true. I think the sign of that would be if they'd stuffed it full of like big, Hollywood talent. I think someone like Aaron Paul is like someone who's pretty well seasoned at VO and probably brings quite a lot of himself to bear on the project as well. So I hope it's that, rather than just like stunt casting.
What's next?
Should we talk about Bits and Bops?
I didn't play this one, but you can tell me about it.
So it's so funny that we were talking just a couple of weeks ago about Rhythm Heaven and playing that with my kids, because this is like balls out like rip-off of Rhythm Heaven. It's identical, even down to like some of the musical choices they make, and the way that the like result screen tells you how well you did. It's clearly just a bunch of fans of Rhythm Heaven making their own version of it, but it is fucking great. It is so much fun. They give you 4 levels in the demo, one of which they're all just utterly charming in the way that the best Rhythm Heaven levels are. So one of them involves trying to take pictures of a dolphin as it jumps out of the ocean, and you're trying to catch it at the right moment. And then as you play through the level, like a bunch of crazy things happen, and just like Rhythm Heaven, it will do a thing where it switches up the beat, or changes it round, but does it in a way that's intuitive, so you can still catch it first time round. So you've got the wonderful surprise of something unusual happening on screen, and then your own like sense of rhythm kind of taking over as you sort of improvise on the spot around the way that they change up the beat. And it's just great. There's another level which is like hammering in nails. So the nails will go plop, plop, plop on one side of the screen, and then you'll have to repeat that beat as they arrive on the other side of the screen. Bang, 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 bang. And again, the way that level starts to change things around and change up the rhythm, it just induces euphoria in you eventually. It's fantastic. And they get all sorts of crazy stuff in where, like, it turns out you're looking at a sheet of IKEA instructions and there's a cat sitting on top of it and things like that. Another utterly charming level where you are 2 birds and you have to kind of hold this conversation between 2 birds, and you can see their thought bubbles of what they're actually talking about. And it's really funny. And there's one more level which I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's Rhythm Heaven, made by someone who really loves Rhythm Heaven, and I would just always play a game like this. They're making a proper one next year, the original team are, but yeah, this is just super cool, super good. I can't wait to play it with my kids as well. It's also quietly... Oh, the last level is breakdancing robots. Yeah, I remembered now. And that might be the best one, actually, because you've got 2 things you do in that level, which is one that the backing dancer robots will clap 4 times, and then you have to clap back 4 times. And then another thing they do where they spin on their heads and break dance, and you have to hold down a button, and then let go at the right time, and you'll do a pose. And just with those 2 ingredients, 2 different moves, they build this really fun, exhilarating, dance sequence. It's wicked. And they also do a thing which is like, the start, as in Rhythm Heaven, like the start of the level is them teaching you the moves, and like if you can't do it, it will find a way to tell you how to do it. So it's like, I couldn't do that kind of spinning on the head move. I didn't quite understand what it was asking me to do. And in a lot of Rhythm Heaven games, you just have to keep working at it until you do it. But in this one, it actually goes, no, you're not. You're literally, a bit of text pops up on screen being like, oh, you're not getting it quite right. Hold down the button and then release it when this happens. And so it gives you all the opportunities to kind of understand what's happening. So yeah, this is just like straight to the top of my most anticipated games, because at their best, these games are just machines for joy.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Yes, it's wicked. There's just like something so innocent and wonderful about these things. It's great.
In a strange comparison, I played the Consume Me demo, which was much lauded at the IGF, and it also has a sort of at its center a comically quick-fire WarioWare style minigame interaction, except that it's tied to a semi-autobiographical game about the trauma of losing weight and having an overbearing mother, and all those associated teen anxieties and toxicity that goes with that. But the style of it is extremely entertaining. It's done in this, it's like presented as this sort of spit paint pixel art style that's enormously expressive and just animated with this kind of giddy elasticity to all the animations. And as I mentioned, I basically can't stand thinking about teenagers or anything like that. So the overall project of exploring the pressures and problems of being a teenager doesn't really thrill me, but the game is just so peppy and playful in the way that you interact with it. I can see why it did so well at the IGF.
Yeah, I didn't get to this one yet, but it sounds super awesome, and I know it's kind of one of the ones that people are talking about at the moment. So yeah, it's definitely one on my list to play.
You played Baby Steps, I believe.
Yeah, and so did you for, a few seconds?
I'd say I took 2 steps forward and then immediately Alt F4'd.
So
what am I doing? I thought to myself.
So this is the incoming game from Bennett Foddy and some of his associates, which is basically open world QWOP. If you don't know QWOP, it's an early internet game where you use the letters of the alphabet QWOP to get an athlete to run as an exercise in frustration because you move their limbs independently. And Bennett has basically been making variations on very, very frustrating games for a while now. Baby Steps is you play a kind of fat, schlubby layabout guy who's grown up, whose parents are kind of infuriated by him, and then one night he gets like sucked into his television and wakes up in a sort of fantasy world, and sort of stumbles to his feet. And the idea of the game is that you control each of these guys' feet with your like trigger buttons on a controller. So you hold down the left trigger and then you use the joystick to place his foot forwards, and then you press the right trigger and you use the controller to put the right foot forward. So it's this kind of incredibly strange way of walking in the game. Personally, I found it fun. Like, I didn't expect to find it fun. I expected to find it frustrating and impossible, but I actually found it really, really satisfying to play, which kind of surprised me, because you can kind of get a bit of momentum going. It's almost it does simulate not being able to walk properly very, very well, because what you'll do, I found, is like, it takes ages to kind of get the basic idea about how you put one foot in front of the other, but then you can build a bit of momentum up. And you can sort of, almost be like running at certain points. I was kind of going like forward, and then after a while, you sort of lose confidence in what you do. What the fuck am I doing? And then you fall over, and so does the character on screen. And, I was able to complete the demo in like 25 minutes or something. It's actually it's not too bad. No, it's actually, that point of the game is relatively easy. It's not infuriatingly challenging at that point. And also, it's just so funny. Like, you keep getting accosted by various people, all played by Bennett Foddy, who has one of the most wonderful voices in the world because he's got this great, Australian. He sounds sarcastic, but he's not sarcastic. That's the thing. It's got this wonderful pitch between sarcasm and earnestness, which I just find incredibly endearing. And in Getting Over It, you heard that kind of tone constantly. It's a weirdly comforting tone. I don't know why, but something about it, I feel very held. I feel very seen. But you've got all these people coming up to you in the game. It's so funny. They're coming up to you in the game and they're offering offering to give you shoes. or offering to give you a few tips to get you started, and the character you're playing is such a schlubby arsehole that it's too awkward for him to have a conversation, so he just says oh no, don't worry about it, I'm just going to keep going, and the people are like, what, you don't want my advice? And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to keep going. And it's just genuinely really, really funny. As someone who has suffered from both social anxiety and crippling laziness, I just think it's so perfectly pitched on the idea of people helping you, and you just can't cope with the idea of having to hold a conversation for a few moments. Really, really brilliant. And the demo is quite well structured in that you kind of have to climb one hill, and then it kind of gives you a little cutscene, and then you can actually go back into the demo and kind of explore the area more. So yeah, I thought this was a triumph, an absolute triumph. I think in terms of the games that Bennett Foddy has been making over the last few games, where he's basically sort of trying to annoy people into submission, I think this is, for me at least, the most sort of exciting exemplar of it so far.
Well, good luck. You masochists. No, I'm sure it's very good. I will never play it. Do you have another game?
I played Mina the... What's it called? Mina the...
Hollower?
Yes, that's right.
Mina the Hollower.
Mina the Hollower. The new game from the Shovel Knight people. Yacht Games, is that what they're called? Yacht Club Games? Yeah, I couldn't quite get my head around this one. I didn't have enough time with it, but it they sort of make games like no one else. It's just, they're almost like From Software, doing that sort of, they will take an 8 or a 16-bit kind of genre classic, and they will sort of work their magic on it and make it into something that looks ancient but feels incredibly modern. Always with this great chiptune music, which is normally something I find a bit passé. I only played this for 25 minutes or so, but it was really unusual. I think it's riffing on Zelda, I guess, in terms of a Link to the Past style Zelda game. And just something really interesting. I know loads of people are excited about this. I need to play it a bit more. But it's just great to see a game that is retro, but in no way is that a laziness. In no way is that a cop out. It's it's a platform on which to build something, clearly completely unique. So yeah, an exciting one, I think.
I played All Living Things. Do you see this one anywhere?
I didn't see that one.
It's a sort of like a cryptic toy, a bit like. Do you remember the early Flash game Windowsill? It's sort of like
yes,
that,
I do.
Sort of poke things until stuff happens. Here, though, the things that you're poking are grotesque and wonderful scenes by an artist who I know only from their Blue Sky handle as Saint Vulture, and they make a lot of images that look like sort of reliefs made out of plasticine, except they do it in 3D. And in this game, they are reliefs that look like plasticine that mimic the style and content of medieval illuminations. So you end up poking a hellmouth, and then a bird turns into a snake, and then a man explodes into colored blobs, and the kind of thing. And I don't know that it's that great as a game, because I found there was no real possible way of interpreting what you need to click on. So there was very little intentionality to it. You sort of just blunder your way through until you've learnt the sequence that you need to press in order to unlock another animation. But it is absolutely amazing to look at. Really stunning.
That sounds great.
If any game is going to have a decoupaged worm in it, it is this one. So
I do love an illuminated manuscript. Is that the original felt? I don't know. I'm going to play that one. What's that one called again?
All Living Things.
Sounds good. You can tell I'm on my second beer because I'm just like, remind me of that game name. I also played the new Ninja Gaiden demo, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. It's dark here and now I can't see. Yes, I think it's Ragebound. This is by the the Spanish team behind Blasphemous. Blasphemous 1 was great. I know Blasphemous 2 people felt was a little bit of a miss. I didn't play it, so I don't know. But this is they've been given the Ninja Gaiden license, which is like having a bunch of games this year, new one coming out, plus they remastered one of the classic kind of 3D ones. But this is like a really beautiful take on the idea, I think. It's visually really handsome. It has that same kind of quite unusual fluidity of movement that feels quite human that Blasphemous had, even though it is quite stylized. The kind of USP this time around is that you have a combat system that they've clearly thought a lot about to kind of supply a very specific fantasy, which is to say the ninja fantasy of, I guess this is the ninja fantasy of kind of flying backwards and forwards across rooms, slicing people open with swords, and like how to make that feel good in your hands and how to make that feel kind of kinetic and satisfying. And it basically involves like kind of slicing up a kind of lesser enemy and charging yourself up and then hurling yourself across the screen to kind of use that on a bigger enemy. And I thought they put quite a lot of effort in the sort of tutorial section of getting you to learn this. They clearly want you to like really engage with that dynamic. And I kind of was a little bit frustrated with how much they were making me do that. But actually, once I got into the game proper, it started to feel really good. So I think if that's a combat system that they're able to kind of keep building on, and then this could be a really interesting game to play, I think. And
intriguing.
I also played the new game from I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it is the new game from the Streets of Rage 4 devs, and it is like a fantasy a brawler spell game, and even more so than the Ninja Gaiden game, it's just stunning. It's just beautiful character animations, world art, the level of spectacle, the level of kind of complexity, just the right level of kind of Streets of Rage level sort of simplicity in the combat, but also with a higher ceiling that is still only a couple of buttons deep. That's really, really cool. I will find the name for your show notes, but that was one of the best demos I played. Actually, made such a good impression and gave like good, those kind of cinematic. Almost like playing like Contra Hardcore or something on the Mega Drive, like similar sense of sort of escalatory arenas where all this crazy shit's going down and you're kind of a character within it. Really fun.
Are those all the games that we played?
I think those are all the games that we played. Oh, I don't even know if this was part of the Next Fest, but I think the demo is out there, which is Jupiter Hell. I think it's called Jupiter Hell Classic or Jupiter Hell Retro.
Oh yeah, I didn't. It's a demake, right, of the previous Jupiter Hell game.
Yeah, it's great because the guy behind it made the Doom roguelike game back in the day, which was like copyright stricken into oblivion by by id Software, and then he made Jupiter Hell, which is a really great roguelike, which has really like lovely kind of graphics. And yeah, he's now making a kind of ASCII art, or not quite ASCII, but kind of sprite-based demake of it, which I was immediately able to, because I played a bunch of Jupiter Hell, I was immediately able to kind of jump into the demo. It's exactly the same in at least some respects, but, done with this lovely kind of cute art style. I just think that's a really neat idea. And to demake your game, which was already a upscaled remake of an existing game you've made, is just is just excellent. Yeah. And that game was essentially a demake of an already existing game, so it's just like a kind of peaks and troughs model of game dev, which is hard not to find charming.
I like it.
Yeah.
Is that all the time for the pod?
Yes, it is.
All these recordings are uploaded as videos to YouTube, where you can find other nonsense by us. The address for that is youtube.com/CraneCrowbar. And thanks as always to our backers on Patreon. You can back us too at patreon.com/CraneCrowbar, or you can join our lovely Discord community. They are wonderful people. The link for which is on our website, cranecrowbar.com. That's it. I've been Marsh Davis.
I've been Jamie Britton.
Bye.
Bye.